Doctor, was basically what happened between you and the priest that is going on. You know, a lot of people, let people understand this.
Yeah. So my mother was buried on May 1st. And the next day we had a funeral Thanksgiving Mass for my mother. And my siblings and I were all seated in the front pew. We were all wearing purple, which is my mother's favorite color. And, you know, it was a very difficult day. And so at some point during Mass, the parish priest of my hometown, whose name is Christopher Eze, and my parish, the parish is St. Paul's in Aba, and Aba is in Njikoka in Anambra State. So he takes the microphone and he starts talking about me. And you know, you're sitting there kind of trying not to cry because you're thinking about your mother. And so I was really taken aback to hear my name. And I'm going to paraphrase him, of course, because I cannot quote him, but you know, sort of, Chimamanda said the church collects money too much. Chimamanda insults the church. Chimamanda doesn't want us to feed the widows. Chimamanda, I mean, it was just really shocking. And his tone was very hostile.
At your mom's funeral?
Yes. We were there, our guests were there who had come to honor my mother. I had actually been holding my brother's hand because we were both trying very hard not to cry in the church. And this man just goes off and just... So I was so shocked and so taken aback. And I should say, to give context, is that he was referring to an interview that you talk about, which I had done months before. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely heartbreaking. And you know what? I have to be honest and say that one of the reasons that I want to talk about this publicly, I don't want what happened to us to happen to any other person. I don't want that for anybody. And, you know, when I started talking about this, just hearing back from people, there's just so much that happens, especially during burials and funerals. And particularly, it seems to me, to happen more in Igbo land, the Catholic Church in the Southeast, where priests are so lacking in compassion. They can refuse to bury a person because that person owes some small amount. They make all kinds of demands on the family, and nobody shows compassion. Compassion is lacking. And the whole root of Christianity is compassion. And I think about it, and I think I have the good fortune of being well known and all of those things, and this happened to me, and nobody has faced any consequence. We have not received any apology.
Doctor was basically...
All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, referencing a Vanguard publication in September 2021, there is a trend in Igbo communities, particularly by churches, whereby if a member dies, he or she is not buried by such a church until a certain amount of money, at times accumulated levies and other payments and rights are made. And this has been a source of worry for bereaved families who go to bury their loved ones. They lament that instead of meeting sympathy and empathy, they unfortunately meet taxes, levies, and a long list of rights to be fulfilled before they bury their dead. And this has also provoked a public outcry from members of the public. Death is inevitable, as we all know, for everyone. And when a loved one is lost, families left behind should be able to mourn, bury their dead in a peaceful manner. So we are asking, concerning Nigerian burials, should churches tax families? That's the question for tonight. Now, please, let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag WeShow. All right, so this is actually a very interesting conversation because I remember that when I posted the flyer on the page, Leola came and said,
I was just going to
where am I coming with this conversation? But it's something that has been on for a while, and it seems like with every burial it gets different
amplified.
Yes, it gets amplified and different conversations around it. I mean, Chimamanda is not the first person that would talk about these kinds of taxes or levies that they enforce on you, and all of that, especially with the Catholic Church. So I'm really hoping that if you are a member of a Catholic Church and you're watching today, to be nice to actually hear. So while I was, I put up the flyer on my status, a few people actually reached out to me. And someone said that in their own church, it depends on the church you're going to. Like in their own church, the church actually contributed money to them. Because again, if you go to some of these Pentecostal churches, and you're like an active member, when a member dies, they actually support the families, and they gave, they even support you with funds to be able to bury your dead. So that was on one hand. So interestingly, a friend of mine, I needed to speak to her today on something, and I just realized that she's actually in the East. She's a Catholic, and she's burying her aunt tomorrow. She's burying her aunt tomorrow. So she's currently right there. In fact, she had lost her voice. So I was not telling her that, so you're there for a burial. So tell me about this thing, and she goes on and on about how, but she's not 100% sure. So it'd be nice for somebody to correct me, but how they had, at some point, they had to stop Ashwebi. That because it now became a show-off thing. So they now said to people that, you know what, if you use Ashwebi, you'll be fined a levy. And that levy you must pay. So people will say, instead of me, because the rich people were angry, instead of me, I cannot show off on my burial. No. We'll rather pay the levy. I think the fine is about 200K.
Oh,
right?
They pay the fine to be able
to be able to do the Ashwebi instead. Because the instruction was everybody just come with your black attire and bury. But they say, no, I want to show off. So there's the angle of this thing. Is not so much of it is also us.
Yes,
we want to show off. And she was saying that even at SAT now, there was a rule, there was an unwritten whatever before that you would keep the body in the mortuary for 1 year because you want to do a grand burial. So now there's a new rule that the body should not be beyond 4 weeks. Just whatever it is that you can afford to do, just do it and get on with the burial. You understand? Do according to what you can afford. And she said also there's a traditional side to the burial, where it's no longer even the churches. Traditionally, I think she said her father is an Ogboishi or something. That's the chief. And it means that chief that kills cow. So you have to be killing cow for 7 days. So it means 1 cow per day. Even souvenirs as well. That for you to even distribute souvenirs, you will pay a fine. So I don't know where the conflict is coming from in terms of levies. So is it that these are laws from the traditional point, or from the churches? But what are your thoughts? Because I wanted to lay this foundation well so we can understand. There were 2 things that Chimamanda mentioned that struck me. That if you are a priest, you are lacking in compassion, right? And the second one is that you must pay the monies you owe. Even we will not go to church. Do you understand? So how do we start with this conversation?
How are you owing money in a church?
You are dead.
For me, I'm fortunate to be on the Waste Show, and I have to say this to all our ladies. I love the way we put balance and the right perspective to conversation, because when I saw this topic, I was like, well, what are we talking about? Of what the problem in this country? Like, seriously? But when you open up your own argument and supported it with other stories from different people and how this is a major issue, but then Nigerians are the ones that actually drive some of those issues, it makes me understand really there's something there. I thought that we're going to have a conversation that I really
was not comfortable.
I didn't think it was
worthy. Yes.
But the balance to our argument helps to enlighten me further, and I have to say, well done.
Thank you.
I believe that without a doubt, Nigerians take the piece when it comes to issues of burial or functions or event. The people drive it, because when you talked about the people paying a fine to be able to go ahead and have Ashwebi, it shows how vain and extra we really can be. That's an angle. But the part where the church levies people and say that until you pay levies or particular duties, you're not allowed, I find that a bit cruel. And it's evident from the way people are expected to pay some tithes, offering, and it goes back to how religion has sort of tied us. We are not allowed to touch it. We're not allowed to speak against anything that is about religion, about leaders. We're just supposed to take everything in hook, line, and sinker. And it's high time. With the advent of COVID-19, it's not a creation, but with the recent development, there's been a lot of cover blowing up. And it goes to show that people are thinking, and the social media exposes some of these things to us. It is inappropriate on every front whatever justification we want to give to it, to levy people who has lost a loved one without thinking about it, to say that if you do not pay particular levies, whether they're owing or not, we're not going to bury you. It shows lack of empathy, just like the lady put forward. And that's where I rest my own thought.
Absolutely. Well, let me come to you.
I share Milola's sentiments, because the church as a house of authority is a place where people should feel protected, where people should feel secure, and where people, when they have problems, they feel support. We just concluded a funeral in my family, and my aunt testified that the church was very supportive of them from beginning to the end, and I saw it in the way they rallied around to make sure that the number of days we spent through the process was seamless. And I saw the support, I saw the compassion and love, and that is what it should be. So when we see situations like this where it is, what is more important is not the dead per se, but now is our time to enforce, I won't even go to the showing of part. I'm coming from the topic, which is the church, where the emphasis is on the church. So where it now, you know, sort of gives the impression that now is okay, like we say in Igbo, in Igbo land, Agaracha must come back. So Shebi, we're waiting for you here, right? So at the end of the day, oh, now you've come, okay, this is all that is waiting for you. I know there are places where, the same way if you want to get married, there's a list of some things. There was an example of someone who went to bury their dead, and they said they could not move the dead beyond a certain level because that road was supposed to, they were supposed to pay money to open that road, and until that money is paid, that the corpse could not pass that point. So these are things that have culturally been held sacred and have also crept into the religious.
I was going to, because I was just coming there, because do you think that, because this thing you said, my mother knelt down for hours, this Agaracha must come back, because my grandfather didn't really take them to the village. I've never been to my village. So when my grandfather passed, I remember my mother knelt, because all my mom's siblings, she's the only one. There are just three, there are 9, 3 of them, the only 3 in Nigeria. The remaining are in the US. So they were really targeted. My mother is the first girl. Her brother is the first boy. They wanted him to come to the village and all of that. And they were so because of that, she knelt down for almost about 9 hours, begging these people that he cannot come. She's the one that is here. Because all of this thing is just, you know what, shey you don't, una papa they protect una, shey today now, you don't, where they, now we are there. So I was coming to Alero that, don't you think this thing that we're exhibiting, we're seeing in churches is the tradition, because Norma touched on it, that has crept into the church, that we have now converted into some of these things that we're experiencing.
Without a doubt,
I mean, for the priest to, like the video that when Chimamanda was speaking, the priest actually was asking for money, not even like, oh, buy the things. So they actually really want the money, but why? You're claiming that you want to give it to the widows and the rest of it, but they're bringing food stuff.
Did you hear the part where she said that there was a cow? Yes, and he was upset.
He was upset that
why did they bring the cow? You should have brought the cash. Yes.
Like you want the why do you want the cash? Why? And then she also mentioned that he said don't transfer to an account because you don't want to be held accountable. I feel like, I mean, this is very known with the Catholic Church. For my own experience, when my father died, it was a Pentecostal church and they supported 100%. Even up till today, I still receive calls from the pastor or the elders in church just asking, how are you doing? How are you faring? But I mean, for the Catholic Church, I feel like this thing needs to stop. because it's becoming too alarming. These are people that are crying and trying to, I mean, imagine Chimamanda saying she's in church wrapping her head around, oh, I've lost my mother,
death.
I'm holding my brother, and we're just, you know, trying to mourn our mom, and you're asking for funds to do what, really? And then, you know, the other people, which are the family members, that they've said, okay, people now, they've seen, they figure out what the problem is, which is, okay, we don't want you to monetize any of this thing. Just come with your black attire, come and mourn your dead. And then there are some other family members that want to do fertility. You want to show us your gold, you want to show the family members that
do you know the road shock?
I'm more than you.
You know, I was born and bred in the north, right? Somebody dies, you have 24 hours, that dead body.
You have to bury them.
So in fact, if the person dies in the morning,
you bury them
by that evening,
you
will not even see the dead body self. And again, I mean, when we lost my father-in-law, I mean, whatever it is that the church, they are happy to do. So what we even just did, I think we just printed hymn books and, you know, donated to the church and all that, like hymn books for the church. But they will never place a demand. So whatever it is that you are bringing is extra.
Just bring
so you can imagine the root shock. When I came to Lagos, people will take Ashwebi, heavily made up, and you're going for a burial. So, do you know, for the life of me, I've never understood it. I will never understand it. That you are going for a funeral, you are wearing
party.
You understand?
All your mascara and your foundation.
Some of them, like they would say,
on the celebration of life. You see, one thing we're addressing is the fruit. We forget the roots. The excessiveness that we experience in churches, in institutions, stems from a wild spread of lack of impunity in the system.
Right.
It goes beyond the religious sects. Even in government, there's a lot of lack of accountability. There's a lot of lack of questioning. People are not used to being sanctioned. They can easily prosecute, condemn, and nail to the coffin a woman that perpetrates any act of that they consider indecent. But when it comes to really being accountable, everybody looks the other way. And that goes back to not just the religion part, but the entire country at large. So for me, it just shows how we take the peace in this country when it comes to the way things should be done. You would see the Prime Minister of UK going under significant brushing because he was drinking during COVID.
Yes,
he was having a
the thing they would hold against them, that we will, in our own side, we're like, what's the big deal? If we do not have basis and benchmark for right or wrongdoing as a society, it would definitely spread into other areas of life.
And that's where you're going with this.
That's how come even children can commit ritual. You see the punishment they met out to children that misbehave. There's always a bit of spare the rods
and spoil the child
behavior. So it goes down to when you know that you're a very corrupt individual, you tend not to be overly critical of another person.
Yes, because you don't want to be criticized.
Except, of course, you're just trying to pretend about it and then you over-criticize the other person. It goes down to that. When the government cannot be questioned, how come you want to question the churches?
People in authority. Let's take a break. We'd like to open our phone lines. I really love to hear. We've been getting some messages already. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. If you just tuned in, we are having an amazing chat. It's our ladies' night out, and we're discussing Nigerian burials. And we're asking, should churches tax families? Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. Tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag WishShow. Our phone line is now open. You know the rules. Please turn off the volume of your television set when you call. And the number to call is 07025007774. And I would really love to hear from our Catholic brothers, you know, because this is really, you know, the conversation is geared towards you based on the anchor story from Chimamanda, right? So I would really love to hear what you have to say. Okay, so I got a message. Let me see. Let me read this message. It says, my sisters at Ways, this is totally uncalled for in the Church of Christ. For God's sake, did the families of Christ pay money before he was laid in the tomb? We should follow what Christ did. There is no compassion at all, and God will deal with anyone involved in such levies. That's why I like the way Muslims do their own. They bury at once. Great topic. This is from Bobby Kennedy from Jalingo, Taraba State.
Thank you.
Fantastic comment. That's why I said the Muslims, they just make life easy. But I think we'll have a caller. Prophet Oshoga from Anambra State. Professor Chuka. Thank you for calling. Are you there?
Yes, thank you so very much.
Go ahead, you're live.
I'm actually a first-time caller.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you for calling.
Thank you. Well, thank you so very much. Thank you. I want to contribute to the very interesting topic that you are discussing. I am an Igbo man of Anambra extraction, and I want to confirm that this is actually real and they are happening. You see, the point is that it shows and points to the extent that the church has deviated from the underlying aims that should define its existence in the first instance. You see, apart from the fact that the bereaved, when it is time for them to bury their loved ones, the church will give you a long list of the payments you have to make according to them that was incurred by either your late father or mother. Even on the day you'll be coming to the church on Sunday for Thanksgiving or so, the priest will always stand the family in front of the entire church and will compel you to make huge donations to the church. You see, whether or not you have the wherewithal, you'll be compelled to do all that. And I've searched in vain to see where that is captured in the scriptures and in the Bible, and I cannot find it. So it's actually a deviation from what the church should be, a deviation from biblical standard.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
It's
so
high
much.
time gets things stopped and we'll address them. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
Oh,
for
wow.
weighing in.
Oh, wow. Ladies.
It's just it's not every. In all fairness, I would say that there are a few churches, Orthodox churches, because now this is really, even within the Catholic Church, there's some of them who do not do this because they do not believe in
No,
it.
you're not in Catholic, so you really can't say that.
Yeah, I mean,
So it might just be at different levels, right? These levies will be at different levels.
I wouldn't want to believe that it's all Catholic churches.
No,
that
it's not
actually
all
do
Catholic
it.
churches.
It shouldn't be all. It's not all Catholic
that.
churches that do it.
But like I said earlier, the cultural aspect has been infused in religion, so much so that there's no difference, so to speak.
The
Now
lines
you
are blurred.
have even people who are bringing in culture to situations, maybe because they have seen themselves in positions of authority and they feel that they can, they have that
Just
power
manipulate the situation.
but it's very unfortunate that it's even happening in the first place, because like I said, the church is supposed to be a place of support. It's supposed to be somewhere where people feel safe. Imagine that you are losing a dear one and you are in mourning,
And this is what you are faced with. You know what? Let me take
this situation.
Mr. Godwin, I believe, from Abuja. Thank you for calling. Turn off. You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
Thank you for calling.
Yes, I'm enjoying your program.
Thank you.
Particularly this topic, because I'm a Catholic.
Okay.
And some of these things you are saying, they are true.
Oh.
But to my surprise, it is not it's not widespread. I give you an example. I'm from Edo State. Things like that don't happen. Then another example is an old boy of mine whom we just buried last month, January 7, in Anambra State. We were made to pay different levies. CM Candy Men Organization fees, this one fees, this one fees. I'm not talking of the families now, or, you know. This one I'm saying that I know of. So I think the practice is from different dances or from different parts of the country. To the best of my knowledge, in Lagos, where I'm a Lagosian, and then Edo State, my state of origin, and I'm a homeboy. Such practices don't take place. You have the dead to bury. You bury on the day you have chosen or agreed with the parish priest, and that is it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling, Mr. Gordon.
Yeah.
Thank you. But you need to turn off the volume of your television set, please, when you call, so that we don't hear the echo at the background. But I like where he was going. You know, he said he's from Edo State, so it means that the Catholic Church in Edo State is completely different from the Catholic in the normal side. But that means that, you see, that's why we're still going back to the fact that what has infused it is the Igbo culture that has filtered into the church.
It's not.
So how do they now correct this? There's a particular
there are probably
more Anambras.
Yeah. Like some of the calls we've had recently, it's really Anambra State. I'm not sure.
Are they the ones that love money most?
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. But this is probably a unique case where a lot more, maybe because the merchants are from Onitsha, Anambra State areas, maybe that's what makes it more lucrative. It can
be that everybody that is from that part can afford the levies they are being put. And why should you subject people to payments just because they want to bury their
So what
dead?
this means is that the person dies. So if the person had not been paying all the levies, so they will accumulate it.
Yeah.
But that's
some
areas.
So how the family is faring after the dead,
it's irrelevant.
It doesn't concern them. That's like the compassion is zero.
To compassion.
It is well. Let me take Nina. Today we will not see. We will just be getting calls back to go. Thank you for calling. Let's hear what you have to say, please. Nina, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
I appreciate what you guys are doing. I'm a first-time caller.
Thank you for calling.
This is my second week watching your program, and I'm impressed with what you ladies are doing.
Thank you.
Now, I'm a Catholic.
Okay.
Married, I'm a convert. I was a Pentecostal, then I married a Catholic.
Okay.
So I think I have more content to pass on to you guys on this issue.
Go ahead.
Number one is this. Burial in Anambra, anything that has to do with either burial or marriage in the East is highly expensive.
Monetized.
And you have to expect more than you bargained for. I'm an Igbo lady, so I know what I'm talking about. I buried my father, I buried my mother, and they were both Catholic. It is peculiar with the Igbos, yes. But it is not peculiar with the Catholic Church. I want us to understand that. It is individual. Probably the priest you're dealing with at that particular time. But one thing I want us to understand is that don't make it a Catholic issue. I have a church, a parish I thank you, and we tend to rally around our parishioners when there's a death in the family, not really coming up to ask them to pay that. Then one thing I need to make, the last caller mentioned something about CMOs, CBs, the Catholic organization and whatever. Those are individual levies for organization and society. Maybe the person that died was not able to pay up this levy before he died, and the society now called on those levies.
Nina, can you hear me?
So, in a short run, it is not a Catholic.
I was just going to ask you, Linda, if the person is dead, can we just not move on? Why must they call back all the levies that the person did not pay while the person was alive?
And I mean,
yes, I understand where you're going on that. That's why I said it is not a church. It is not a Catholic church
problem alone.
It is an individual thing. It has to do with that particular parish or the priest handling that parish. It is an individual, it's purely an individual. You know, just like an incident that happened in Ikorodu. You know, I don't know if you guys heard about it. There was an incident that the parish priest said there's not going to see an Igbo song. He had to stop to stop the match or something like that. That was peculiar with that.
The priest, okay, and he was sanctioned. Thank you so much, Linda.
Yes, and he was sanctioned.
Thank you so much. So it's actually interesting what Linda was saying about people rallying around. I saw this thing and I thought it would be nice to mention it while we're on this topic. I saw a tweet. In fact, it was, I think it's today, 16th, I mean.
Yesterday.
On my cousin's funeral group, when he was sick, bill was about 475. What's this? This is from Ghana cedis, I think.
This is Kish. No, this
Kish,
is
right?
Kenya.
Cash. We contributed about 200K. He died on Monday, and the group was turned into the funeral group to plan his funeral. The contribution suddenly hit the roof after he died. Oh, wow. We are currently at 756K. Even those who remained silent are sending in cash. This was really worrisome for me. You know why I say that? Because this is the same culture. So it's not even unique to Nigeria. It's the same culture that somebody is alive. Your mother and your father, they are alive. You're not feeding them. See the story you talk about the zinc houses and whatever. Yes. If that woman should die tomorrow, the guy will go and buy, he will buy a casket of 10 million. He will build a house of 50 billion to bury somebody. We have this culture of spending money while people are dead. Why can't we not take that money and put it to good use for the people that are alive? Create an education trust fund. Do so. If you have so much money, why don't you do that and make your burial very, very
minimalistic?
Thank you.
Nigerians don't like, they use that opportunity to show off largely. And it just goes to say that a bunch of people are quite irresponsible. It touches down on our value as an individual, because for me, I believe in celebrating people while they are alive. Exactly. That story has been going on social media. It's when people die that we start seeing comments.
That's why this guy sang this song now. Pato rank me. Celebrate me when I'm alive. Yes.
You know, we sort of take the shine. We use the death of someone to start profiteering. And that's pretty much why it is when you have lost your dead one that people you reach out to at the time the person was going through ailment, they will not raise the fund for the medical bills. They will not raise the fund to support that individual. But once you drop dead, they want to weigh in so that they can take the glory. And it goes down to selfishness on human part. And it's not just Nigerian. The human race itself is absolutely flawed. But we are even more perverse in the way we abuse some of these things. And really, it's not just religion. It's a cultural thing. It goes to show the level of selfishness, self-aggrandizement that we have, that we derive from people's misfortune. That is when some people want to come to the stage and spray you money so that they can get captured and they can get a repost and a retweet and all of that. And
especially now that everybody is doing something for
with the way that man did his
Kubana, my sister.
It's just completely. Do you know it was after then that everybody just completely changed the narrative from celebration of life to showing off. And it just shows how really shallow-minded we are. And how we place emphasis on irrelevant, mundane things, and attention has been dragged away from really important, salient issues. For me, if we continue in this manner, this country is in a very, very big mess.
I'm actually very curious. You know, the lady that called just now, she said that it's not all Catholic churches that actually act like that. So who is checking the guys that are messing up?
My point, exactly.
Who is checking them? Who are the people that was okay? You know what? We in the whole Catholic churches, or the Union of Catholic Churches in Nigeria, we have certain priests that are acting. You know that you've heard. What are you doing about it?
You remember what Chimamanda said in that video?
Yes.
That at some point, she reported to the bishop that he is supposed to be under. The bishop that's supposed to sanction him. And the bishop said that because you had spoken about it in public, there's nothing he can do about it.
Really? So which means that it's going to continue going on and on and on.
Deep-seated issue. And it just goes back to our level of compassion. And you hit the nail on the head where we're beginning to lose our humanity in the way we approach things. So it's really about materialism and what we get instead of the situation and how we can bring in humanity to help the situation. And it's very unfortunate that we've gotten to this point, even down to the church.
Absolutely.
Which is supposed to be like the last
supposed to be your
place of
safe haven.
succor, so to speak. I have a comment here. Let me just quickly take you through. It says, Hi Queens of Talk. A fine evening to you, divas. A controversial subject matter is on the table tonight. There's absolutely no justification for churches to be taxing families for burial. Doing so is tantamount to monetizing God. When bereaved, families should be empathized with and not to be fleeced by the house of God. Nowhere in scriptures have we read about Jesus Christ asking for money for any service rendered. Church is not a business. This is from YMD.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The concern for me is we talk about issues as it affect us all on this platform, but where do we anchor it? What's the next thing? For me, it's very painful that when we bring out issues that should drive people's attention and drive change, we really are not able to drag it down to a point where people can get sanctioned.
So let me say how this I think might work out. You must get to that point where you as an individual, you are not ready for what people would say. You do not care what people would say. So my dad has always said that anywhere he dies, you bury him. And, you know, by God's grace, he lives old age and all of that. Wherever he is, we'll do something quiet, get a land there, and bury him. We don't have to take him, because you see the culture of, I must go to the village, I must do all of that. I do not have any link.
Fly back.
So me, I've already said it, that anybody that will stress me, when my father is alive, I've done what I'm supposed to do. I love you, I call you, I talk to you, I deal with you. So if you say it is a must that you want to go to that village, it is you. Because my father's spirit has left that body, my mother's spirit has left that body. Do you understand my point? So we must get to that point where it does not matter anymore. Because again, it is because they prey on the vulnerability of you as a person. When you tell them, you know what, see the dead body is with you, whatever you want to do with it. They also want to beg you
to come and cover it in the ground.
Come and take the body. You know, somebody was saying that as Muslims, that you dare not faint or go into coma, because the next 6 feet under, because they don't have time.
No time.
That is one thing I really appreciate about Muslims and the northern culture. Not only Muslims, even the Christians that are northerners. That's how they do their thing. We buried so many people in my husband's family. I've never ever heard that they say, even the ashwebi that we wear, they send it with their money to us. Do you understand? Nobody has asked us for any dime. The only thing what they do is that as family members, they just know that, okay, we need to rally around and just quickly put money together to do the burial. Nobody says anything. Nobody says, Milola just gave 1 million. Nobody does all of that. Everything is quiet. So we must get to that point where we stop this act or show off and say, you know what, I want to do what is right. Because this thing, like you rightly said at the beginning, it has rubbed up on every other thing that we're doing as a country. Everything has to be about show off. Everything has to be about, you know, showing that yes, I have arrived.
I have more than you.
Nigeria is a peculiar case.
Proliferation of churches comes with a lot of problem, and that's why we have church history. The taxation in churches is now a new trend in our generation, and many members of our churches are just gullible. We must just change it from there. So I don't know if that is solution enough, Milola, but that's what it's
a start.
I think we need to be able to raise institutions and bodies that would sanction people.
Exactly. Like
allowing things to just become a conversation piece and it dies at that is why we have not made any significant progress.
I'm so happy that you're going into the House of Representatives.
Trust me, I would give it my best, and I would try as much as I can to not just be the only voice, but to also identify similar voices. Because trust me, we can't talk about this thing on this show. We have to drag it down. Where does the rubber meet the road is in the place of active work. And I know Uwa, I know Unama, and I know that as one soul awakens, we light up other people to wake up. Because this country is sitting on a keg of a gunpowder. And it's high time we just take it beyond a conversation piece and actively get involved in governance.
Absolutely.
And that's where I rest it for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have run out of time. Oh, Honorable Mimola. Still are online. But I think you've really wrapped it up nicely. And we'll continue to do our part. This is where we're not afraid to say anything. We are talking, and we know that they're listening and they would hear, and by the grace of God we will get a better.
Keep on talking.
We must get a better Nigeria.
Get solutions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alera. Thank you, Nama. Thank you, Milola. All right, we had a fantastic conversation. So do ensure you follow us on Instagram. It's at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our conversations online and all our online engagements. Like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. If you missed today's quote, here it is again. I love this person that wrote this quote. It says, I don't believe in funerals. I believe in celebrating life and showing people while they are alive how much I care about them. And I don't believe in the business of burial. I am an organ donor. Whether it's my skin or my eyeballs, just use whatever bits are intact and put the rest in the garbage. It's as simple as that. We shouldn't make it that the person has left the body, right? I don't know why we put too much attention to things that are irrelevant. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Ciao.
Bye.